Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome back to Chaos TV's live coverage of the Riot Turkey International Invitational. That's still a mouthful. I don't think I'll ever get used to saying that. I'm at this, joined by Stress, and as you can see, we are in the second picks and bans between Cloud9 Eclipse and Big Plays Incorporated. How are you going, man, Stress? How are you going? That's an interesting question.
It's going good. Don't
It's going
worry.
good.
It's all good. I mean, it's all good if you're a Cloud9 Eclipse fan right now. But BPI seemingly thinking that rise from Odo Amno is a little bit strong, and you have to feel like maybe their picks and bans phase just wasn't the strongest in the previous game. They banned out Elise, which typically has previously been a very banned out jungler, but a lot of junglers just haven't been prioritizing Elise ever since the recent patch. This time I feel a little bit more confident with their first two bans, Ryze and LeBlanc coming out. Very standard champions, very strong. Let's get them out of the picks phase.
I fully agree with you. I think that was an interesting banning and picking phase for BPI because they picked Jax first, like completely blind, and then they picked Vayne after Caitlyn. So for me, there were two head scratchers. It definitely didn't work out for them, and they made a couple of lapses in judgment in the game itself as well. Because let's remember, Voidal was caught at level 1, had to use Flash. They got the first blood as well, Stress, something that we didn't mention after it happened on Kha'Zix. But they did nothing with it. It's like they got first blood and then they got completely smashed. So they need to kind of focus a tiny bit more, I have to feel.
The problem is the lanes were doing so well for Cloud9 that first blood on a jungler really doesn't do that much. This time I'm a lot happier. You can see that already banning Elise in the previous game actually wasn't that big a factor because even when given first pick with Elise available, Cloud9 will still pick Lee Sin because Ku on Lee Sin, of course, he's going to want to play that Lee Sin when it is available. Then picking up Lulu in that middle lane, and now Caitlyn in AD carry is far more consistent with what we would expect to see in this first three picks.
Exactly. Caitlyn, very smart pick from BPI. Hyanan was on a rampage at the end of that game, was 50 CS over Vayne as well, so just absolutely crushed. And I think picking Caitlyn's really good. Hyanan plays a really good Lucian as well, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see Lucian picked up in this comp. But again, they may be going back to what worked, and there's no reason for them not to. They convincingly won game number 1, finished at around 21 minutes, I think, 16k ahead. So if Feberven does go for Nidalee in mid again, I actually would quite like to see that, Stress, because he played so well.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about how typically you wait. Nidalee has to have Athene's Unholy Grail, needlessly large rod. Looks like we've had a little bit of a client bug with one of the Cloud9 players. Yeah, Ku's DC'd, so I'm just going to get him back into the game pretty quickly. But yeah, it's something that we've typically seen from Nidalee is until you get Athene's Unholy Grail and needlessly large rod, it's kind of difficult to output a lot of damage. However, Forbiven was so on point with those spears that he really didn't even need the items. He had a Chalice of Harmony and was doing a third of health with long-range spears.
Exactly, and Ku made some very aggressive but successful plays in mid as well. Tower diving, even to the second tower, if you remember that long-range Sonic Wave Resonating Strike combo. It seemed like he was Superman punching forever. And it's that kind of mentality that makes Ku such a strong Lee Sin, because you never quite know where his limitations are. Just when you think he's not going to jump, he will jump, and he'll manage to actually pull it off as well. So it must be terrifying to play against Ku's Lee Sin, actually.
One of the other things is not that he doesn't know his own limitations, is he always likes to test them. He likes to go as aggressive as possible, and sometimes he'll die for it, but then he'll get kills in that situation. There'll just be one time where he's learned he can do this, he can dive behind 4 people and pick up a kill sometimes, but, you know, that's a bit of an exaggeration. But essentially, like, Ku likes to push the boundaries on Lee Sin. Sometimes he gets punished, sometimes he gets away with it, and it looks really impressive.
But I think that's one of the reasons that makes him so deadly, because he's like a loose cannon. You never quite know what he's going to do. And therefore he becomes very unpredictable. And when you think he's going to back, he's going to dive in and jump on you. And that catches you off guard. League of Legends is a very repetitive game in the sense that a lot of these players have probably played thousands upon thousands of games. And certain things become almost ingrained in your brain, like when not to go back, when to go back. And if Ku is kind of keeping you on your tiptoes, that can completely knock you out of sync. And I think that's one of the reasons his Lee Sin's so damn strong.
That was actually something that, surprisingly enough, we actually were on the same brainwave at the same time. I was going to say that Ku is actually very iterative when it comes to playing on a new patch. He'll kind of, at the beginning of a new patch, just push and push and push. That's a Jace, we'll talk about that now. But he pushes the champion to the limits, and then as the patch is like kind of settled, then he makes those plays where it's like, okay, I've learned where I can do this, all the changes, everything like that, and I'm all fine. But Jace has been locked in. Have to assume that's a top lane Jace. And again, now that we've seen the change from Shyvana Mundo, I have a feeling that we're returning to that Jace Ryze kind of Kennen lineup. We haven't seen the Kennen yet from anybody, because Kennen got changed a little bit, but everybody cast your mind back to this time last year. Jace, Kennen, Ryze in the top lane were the only things played because of how strong they were.
And I was going to ask you this before, actually, when it came to Ryze. I mean, Ryze has had some individual changes that have made him more viable, but whoa, that could actually be the Kennen, so, mystical stress strikes again. But what's the reason for Jace? Is it the changes to Tear of the Goddess, or is it just that his kit's been kind of altered and is a lot more viable now?
So there are a couple of little changes to the champions around. That is a Kennen, and I am the first to say that's a Cogmore.
You what, mate?
Okay, we'll come back to Jace Kennen in a second, because Cogmore, we were playing Cogmore the other day, were we not? If I'm remembering rightly.
I was playing it, in a rank 5's team.
We were playing some rank 5s, commenting that Cogmore's been changed a little bit. We're seeing the return of a couple of AD carries that are a little bit unsafe in lane. And now that Cogmore has that extra armor shred, it's possible that in certain circumstances he's actually still really, really heavy damage focused in the late game. And if you can get him there, he's actually fine. And actually does a very good job in the late game. So this game's going to be a little bit crazy here.
Yeah, Cogmore, he is known as the tank destroyer. I remember saying this back in Season 2 so often when every lane seemed to be Cogmore Nunu. Do you remember those days, Stress?
Yep.
It was a dark time for AD carries.
It was.
When Graves and Tarek also reigned supreme as well. But regardless, Cogmore is a very strong AD carry. The problem is he doesn't have a great deal of mobility, and that's what Karma's going to fix in the lane with him. It's going to allow him to speed up, it's going to allow her to slow also Caitlyn down, plus the fact he's been changed a bit, as you're saying, the additional armor and magic resist shred, plus the fact that his Bion Arcane Barrage has also been changed. It has no mana cost anymore. That was one of the problems before with Cogmore, is you wanted to keep range and harass people, but you found yourself actually losing a lot of mana in doing so. So now that is free for you to use, and those are both really, really significant. The only worry I have is that when you look at the bot lane there against both Nami and Caitlyn, if an Aqua Prison lands, that's going to be followed by a Pilt of a Peacemaker and a lot of damage afterwards. So that's something that Voidal and Hyanan have to be super careful for. Also, they haven't switched yet, and Voidal's normally their support, and Hyanan's normally their AD carry.
That's a really good point.
So, what?
I have a feeling they're going to swap. Well, this is going back to the lobby. Or Voidal's AFK.
Or they're just being kind of arrogant, and they won game 1 so convincingly that they're trolling around a bit. Because Featherven's also playing Lee Sin, they're all switching their roles around.
Oh, okay. I didn't actually see that. That would be a little bit disappointing if that was the case. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, they all have different roles,
yeah,
barring
they've got
Jace.
the summoners in the right place as well for the roles. So,
Yeah.
okay. In which case, it could be Ku playing top lane and Jace playing mid.
True.
That's.
Yep.
I'm a little disheartened to see that, because I would have been interested to see how it works out in the proper roles. But another side point of what you were talking about with Cogmore there, and the mana cost being reduced, is that's actually a fairly subtle change as well, because when you take into account that, as you're saying, you obviously want to have that increased range, but as Cogmore, it was always that choice. Do you use Living Artillery and eat through all of your mana to get that damage out from the range as Siege, or do you save a little bit of mana and use the Bio-Arcane Barrage? Now, you don't have to make that choice. You can just spam R for the entirety of any kind of Siege situation. So, yeah, I'm a little disappointed that Cloud9 have kind of swapped things up, but it's not the same level that LoL Pro did the other day, if you saw that game.
Well, it's one of those things. If they crush the first game the way they did, I guess there is a bit of ego there. I do hope, though, from a neutral perspective, that BPI come and win this game now, and kind of put Cloud9 in their place and say, no, you have to take us seriously. We're not that much of a walkover. Also, another thing that we didn't mention is that Cogmore's base damage was also increased.
Yes.
And his range was. So in many ways, he's been buffed pretty significantly, and I definitely think in a lane with someone like Karma, it can definitely work. Because, as you say, if it costs nothing for Bioarcane Barrage, you're allowed to spam away Living Artillery, and then even when Kog'Maw has no mana, he's still dangerous, because Bioarcane Barrage always used to be the thing that shredded through people. When you build stuff like Blade of the Ruin King, Phantom Dancer, and then you pop his Bioarcane Barrage, people just disappear.
My worry about this, and nicely that this ties back to the Kennen, is that Kog'Maw is a very risky champion to play as an AD carry. He has no escape, very similar to Jinx. You have to flash out, but Kog'Maw has even less crowd control than Jinx does, and makes it very difficult for him to survive, hence why team compositions were called Protect the Kog'Maw, because you have to protect him. It's an active decision that you have to make in every team fight, and that's something that Kennen actually does an incredible job of undoing. Because that slicing maelstrom, you come in through the side with a flank, sometimes you have to flash for it, sometimes you kind of get gifted it. You get that flank, you activate Slicing Maelstrom, the stacks charge up, the rest of your team follows in, you look at the rest of the team, they've got Onslaught of Shadows, they've got the Tidal Wave as well as extra disruption. It's difficult for Voidal to get out of that without the Mantrid Inspire, also known as Defiance from Karma, and then flashing. It's a difficult thing to do. So something to look for is those side flanks coming out from Pattern, because they'll lock Kog'Maw down, and there's the champion limitation that why you don't see Kog'Maw played.
Yeah, exactly. And you're making the comparison to Jinx, whereas Jinx has a snare with Flame Chompers. All Kog'Maw has is a slow, and it's only by 20% at level 1, the Void Ooze. So again, it's not guaranteed CC, it's just going to slow, it's not going to stun or lock anyone in place. And as you say, you're against so much CC and so much engage as well from long range. Tidal Wave has a huge range, and then when you put on the Onslaught of Shadows and the Slicing Maelstrom on top of it, that is brutal to deal with. And this is one of the reasons why pretty much 99% of Kog'Maws at this level of play will go Blade of the Ruin King, because it gives you that additional movement speed and keeps you alive just that little bit longer.
Looks like we had an unpause that was a little bit of a misclick, but the teams are just making sure they're all ready here. But you asked me in Champion Select why we kind of saw Jace, Kennen, Ryze drop off. So to run through those changes, Jace had his utility with Tear of the Goddess changed, so that you couldn't stack his ultimate. You couldn't stack the tier by changing form in his ultimate, which was essentially free stacks every 6 seconds, which was really, really nice on Jace. Kennen had his base AD reduced. That was one of Kennen's strengths, was his incredibly high damage at the very early levels, that you go Doran's Blade, even though you're building AP, and chunk people through at the initial levels. And Ryze had his movement speed and projectile range on his ultimate affected as well. So there were the 3 different changes that really meant that those 3 champions started dropping out of the meta, and that changed the top lane drastically. However, ever since then, they've stood in a very similar place to where they've been. Ryze had a little bit of an adjustment. Kennen has had the Doran's items changed around him, so now Doran's shield is slightly less effective. Those attacks will start doing slightly more damage against a Doran's shield opponent. And Ryze had that extra health buff in the beginning of the game. So 3 changes in the game, not only for those champions, but 3 specific changes that could bring all 3 of them back.
And I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a bit more diversity at the top lane, because it has been a bit stagnant recently, up until the last few weeks, where, as you say, Shyvana, Mundo, even Trundle stepping in now and again, and Renekton as well. Renekton has been a top tier pick for God knows how long now, probably 2 or 3 years, I'd have to say. So it would be nice to put some new champions at the top lane and really get the ball rolling there, and seeing how they all interact with one another as well, because there's always that interesting phase where if a new champion starts to come back, you start to see other characters picked to try and counteract that one, and suddenly the champion pool just goes up quite a lot more.
Yeah, it's just one of those weird swings and roundabouts thing that we have in League of Legends. It's actually a pretty cool thing when it happens, and of course, Tear of the Goddess. I didn't actually touch on the Jace changes that have brought him back. Tear of the Goddess has kind of had a little bit of a change around with the fact that in 4.3 they added extra additional mana per 8 seconds, and then the mana regen slightly reduced. And then, if I remember, the mana mune hasn't been changed all that much. But as I said, Jace, kind of one of those champions that is just good for tower pushing, and that's what people are doing a lot these days. You activate that hypercharge, in the later levels, you're going to start shredding through towers. You got a lot of siege with him. Look at the siege. Actually, thinking about it, we haven't looked at this team composition as a 5. Jace, Nidalee, Kog'Maw, Karma. 4 long-range siege harass champions that, if they ever get ahead, they're going to sit in front of a tower and it will start falling.
Yeah, that is a very good point, actually, that we haven't brought up yet. I also see in chat, because obviously we are on pause for quite a considerable amount of time, so I'm going to have a quick look at chat now and again, but people asking why is Febiven jungle, why are Cloud9 not playing their roles? They won game number 1 so convincingly in the end that I think this is kind of a bit of an ego shining through Stress, that we have everyone barring Adomne picking a different role, although as you said, Adomne could very well be in the mid lane with Jace instead of top. So hopefully that answers some of those questions. It's a bit of a shame to see, but it will be quite interesting as well to see how these players actually fulfill the different roles. You'd assume players of their caliber, like challenger tier players, would be able to play every role to a pretty decent level, but that's going to be in the next 30 or so minutes to see exactly how well they do.
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, obviously they're not taking this game 100% seriously. I mean, I'm not going to delude our viewers and ourselves by thinking that Cloud9 are taking this completely 100% competitive serious, but at least they're running a full composition in, they've got one of each, whereas other teams that have done similar, let's say, overconfident things recently just hit random and hit let's go. Forbidden saying forgot to swap, so yeah.
Seems legit that everyone forgot.
Sounds legit, but it could bite Cloud9. We already said that BPI had a very strong, very early game in the last game, but Cloud9 are going on the aggressive here.
Yeah, and that's going to be Hecarim face-checking it. Daniel's taking a bunch of damage, and he will be going down. Remember, he has Ghost, not Flash, so he was looking to try and get through the wall, but that's just not possible. I will say, though, he didn't burn his Ghost needlessly, so at least he still has his summoners.
Yeah, it's small victories on that first blood going down, I guess, when you're on a BPI side. And I'm actually a little bit disappointed that this is happening, just because I would love to see how this game played out if this was a 5. Just to see. Because if BPI could break it, I'd be able to turn around and be like, look, Kog'Maw doesn't work, here's a game as evidence. Jace doesn't work, here's a game as evidence. Like, something like that. I don't know. I like this team composition out of Cloud9. I wish it was in better circumstances they were running it.
I'd personally love to see Kog'Maw back, but I feel there's too much CC-centric bot lanes that it becomes very difficult to play Kog'Maw. Like, speaking from an AD carry's perspective, if I was going into lane as a Kog'Maw, it would have to be against someone like Soraka, I have to feel, that doesn't really offer a great deal of presence in lane.
Yeah, so not specifically talking about this game, but there's actually a couple of little changes in itemization, of course, recently that may help Kog'Maw out. Well, not even only recent changes, but an item like Mikhail's Crucible is really nice when playing alongside a Kog'Maw, which is now a standard support item, because typically on Kog'Maw you had to get the QSS very early on, otherwise you died. Whereas Mikhail's kind of does that job for you. So, it's one of those things that, not applying to this game, but to any other game where you're playing with a Kog'Maw.
Yeah, the Mikhail's is super, super good because it gives you the cleanse and a little heal as well on top of that. So, yeah, as you say, could very well be picked up here from Hjarnan, who is firing out the Qs there from Karma, but Flame not able to connect.
It's something that we're seeing on 4.4 is teams starting to be a little bit more adventurous, so as a Daniel actually gets taken fairly low in the jungle by Q. I mean, the other thing to note is, like, I don't want to take this game overly serious, but this could be something that they've practiced. No, I'm not even going to go there. It could be a comp they've practiced in a different way, but Voidal getting caught.
And that's exactly the pitfall of Kog'Maw. He's taking so much damage, could be falling right now. He's forced to use his barrier with 10 hit points remaining. Ignite was ticking down. Meanwhile, Febiven has been caught. The blue buff, that's going to be Lulu picking that one up. And the transfer of the buffs is complete. That's going to be a brutal lane off for Q to deal with in mid.
Ooh, that's a double buff, Lulu. And he didn't quite shield that one off in time, but now that Ku is going to be taking damage from more Glitter Lances, Help picks plus Glitter Lance, then the passive from Lulu as well, add to that red buff. That's a lot of damage that Riosta's going to start applying if he starts harassing Ku. I'd like to see him punish this a little bit more. There we go.
Yep, he is trying to chunk down Ku right now. And Javelin comes in not quite able to connect. So Kog'Maw has rejoined the fight at bot lane. Kianan took quite a bit of poke as well from both Rogu and Katsei at bot lane. So already you're starting to see some of the cracks here at this bot lane composition.
Yeah, I wonder whether we'll see BPI punish that anymore, because, I mean, as you said, all of these players, ooh, wow, Kiana gets locked down. A lot of harass. All of these players challenger level, but can they fulfill their roles in a competitive environment?
Because BPI, they're a very good team in their own right. One of the top Turkish teams here. Daniel is a level below Febiven, but is actually pushing him away. And he has the red buff over Febiven's blue. However, you can see the rest of the team starting to move into position. It's not looking too good for Cloud9's Febiven, and he is going to be going down from Lulu. That is the second kill that he's gifted to the mid laner.
And here's what you're talking about, is Cloud9 not taking this game 100% serious. They're already down a kill, they're down 400 gold, they're playing Caitlyn against Kog'Maw, so until Kog'Maw really gets levels in that Bio-Arcane barrage, he can't really outrange Caitlyn. Is going to take a lot of damage from Piltover Peacemaker, and I don't know how many times Voidal will have played the Kog'Maw-Caitlyn matchup either. That's another thing to note when changing your role, is if you don't have that knowledge of the role, you might not be able to fulfill it as well.
Exactly, and to be honest, Caitlyn and Nami, for my opinion, is a very underrated bot lane, because you have all the range of Caitlyn, and then the Tidecaller's Blessing comes in from Nami, which you just saw there, can poke you from range, slows you down, and does additional damage. So that just accelerates Caitlyn's poking capabilities even further. And Kog'Maw, without his Bio-Arcane Barrage, is quite a short-range AD carry, so he's always going to come out second best in those trades.
And another thing that's kind of something they've got to watch out for is the way that they've forced Kog'Maw onto buying Boots of Speed already. That's going to reduce what is likely to be the speed on a Blade of the Ruined King that's going to get built. Verbiven's heading down into this bottom lane. I nearly said Ku then. Lee Sin with a Cloud9 game.
Yeah, it's pretty confusing, to be fair, as a caster, because you get into this mind frame. And I just saw in chat there, and I do actually quite agree with this, but I'm interested to pass it over to you as well, Stress, and get your 2 cents. Actually, Febiven's coming through to mid. I'm not too sure there's a kill on, though. That's a pretty beefy Lulu at this point. There we go, shield, and that's pretty much the end of the gank. But saying this is very disrespectful from Cloud9 Eclipse to switch up the lanes in this manner. Would you agree with that statement?
In some respects. I think... Yeah, I think in some respects it is. As I said, it's not quite the levels that we've seen from other teams, not that that's an excuse. So, like, I wouldn't go to a point where, you know, witch hunts and all that kind of stuff. I feel like this could bite Cloud9, and that would be the punishment, but Riosta's overextending in that middle lane. Forbiven's going to pick that up.
Yeah, Flash was expended from Q, but he'll take that kill definitely, especially as he has the blue buff, and Febiven going in front of Q as well, maybe trying to show off a tiny bit there and say, look, this is how you play Lee Sin.
And that's what I kind of meant about, as Forbiven actually picking up one in that middle lane. Bottom lane, Flash comes forward, but it's not able to catch on. I was going to say, some teams actually do single lane swaps. We've seen it out of teams in LCS, which is, you know, to be expected from certain teams, different playstyles, but I don't see that Cloud9 really have built a 4-person swap into their game plan. So, with that respect, I kind of agree that it's a little disrespectful.
It would certainly be an interesting tactic. It would be a unique one. It's like, hey guys, what if we switch around 4 players? Febiven's been caught again on the red buff. And nice mechanical play though, actually getting him out of dodge there. Rogue is taking a bunch of damage courtesy of Karma at the bot lane, and I actually didn't see Febiven surviving that one, so kudos to him.
I have a feeling on TeamSpeak he was saying Ku. Did you see that? Did you see that,
probably.
Ku? But nevertheless, we do have one straight up lane, and that's top lane, and we can take a look at how that's going. It's going in favor somewhat of Odoamne right now. He's got that assist from the earlier kill, I believe that was the first blood, and he's 10 CS up. So this is somewhat to be expected by the fact that Kennen got hit with those very small beginning of the game nerfs on the damage. Here comes an engage.
Oh, nice flash from Madonna. He has been caught from the onslaught of shadows though, but they don't have the follow-up damage. Slicing Maelstrom pretty much completely missing the majority of the damage there on Adomne because of his flash.
Interestingly enough, down in that bottom lane, the Cloud9 duo bot have actually kept up on farm with Caitlyn, which is something that you wouldn't expect in a Kog'Maw lane. against Caitlyn, and especially when you consider that Kog'Maw was forced onto boots. Typically, you'd expect him to be further behind because of the fact he has slightly less damage. Middle lane, Riosta forced to shield himself. I don't think Ku can get that without a spear landing.
No. Ace in the hole at bot lane as well from Voidal will be mainly shielded out from Karma, who did just get into range. Also, Bilgewater Cutlass has been finishing off on Kog'Maw, and as you were saying before, as I'm actually looking at mid lane now, Ku's being chased down, will be unable. I thought he was able to pounce over the wall there, but does get caught out of position. Febiven now going super aggressive on Daniel and Riosta in 1v2, but Riosta's too low to really do anything in retaliation. And the bot lane actually, just global damage being exchanged between these two teams. Kansei gets caught quite a bit there, but will be able to back on away.
Cloud9 have actually got the gold lead here, which, you know, is only a small lead right now. That looks so much like Elise's Cocoon. It's actually fairly off-putting. That new particle for Kog'Maw on his Q.
Yeah, that's his Q, which has been changed to a skill shot now, if you guys watching weren't aware in the previous patch. So it's another of the small nuances in Kog'Maw's kit now.
Yeah, it's that Core 6 spittle, the passive increases attack speed by 15%, and then it's currently at level 2, so he's actually reducing armor and MR on that by 22% for 4 seconds, so it's 1,000 range skill shot as well. So it's a fairly long range shot when you think about it.
Yeah, especially when you consider you can put in a flame as well, and if you catch both, it's actually quite a big chunk of damage. And Rogu's been forced to go back a tiny bit right now, and you can start to see some of the damage perks from Kog'Maw as Rogu gets caught by that spear. Ku fails his pounce, but here comes Karma from the side, securing that kill with the flash.
And you can see there the mana management decisions out of Kog'Maw. It's actually Ku getting locked down in the jungle here. Has to be very careful.
He does, and the flame comes in. There's also the shield. It's not going to be enough to keep him alive. And now Riosta narrowly missing the Glitter Lance. Onslaught of Shadows, however, will not be missing. Lands its mark, but look at the damage from Voidal from the backside. Hjarnan is still somehow alive as he shields himself. Here comes a Daniel. He doesn't have a great deal of mana to play with. He's not going to be able to secure this kill. Or is he? No, he's not. Shield comes on now. Ace in the hole as well will be blocked from Voidal, and they pick up the kill.
Oh, flash over the wall out from Forbidden, didn't quite land the Q. This might spell the end of this, because there is a tower there, and it's just under half health. But, I mean, you saw there to begin that off, Voidal didn't have to make the decision of holding the mana for Bioarcane Barrage. He was able to just let that Living Artillery rain down behind the turret and chunk down BPI again and again. And even though he had no mana, that now free Bioarcane Barrage was able to allow him to catch up on that kill there.
Yeah,
oh, sorry, on the kills going. He got the assists.
Yeah, he managed to pick up 3 assists in this game so far. I think the first one was from about 5 or so minutes ago. But regardless, as you say, he is keeping neck and neck with Caitlyn, and that's where the alarm bells begin to ring for a Caitlyn, because Kog'Maw scales so much better than a Caitlyn does, especially once that Blade of the Rune King's finished off. Doesn't have enough gold for it right now, just 1.1k, but as soon as that's finished, it's where things begin to get quite scary for an AD against Kog'Maw. Top lane, Padan has been caught out, but will be turning someone back around with the Slicing Maelstrom. Who's going to come out on top? Well, the answer is nobody. They both go down.
I'm having flashbacks to Season 3, where Ken and Jace, top lane, they just traded against each other all day, and it all looked fine, and then, oh, they kill each other. But Jace has a CS lead, a significant CS lead as well. That's 30 CS in his favor, and that's something that we just grew to expect out of that Jace Kennen lane. Was Jace farms a little bit better in lane, has good poke. Kennen has the far superior team fight.
That event has been caught again. Meanwhile, at bot lane, the Tidecaller's Blessings doing work from Katsue onto Hjarnan, but here comes Voidal from the backside, going to be chunking down some damage. He has picked up the double daggers and will now be chasing after Rogu, but Rogu's a bit too fast. Meanwhile, Febiven is still in a fight to the death with a Daniel. Onslaught of Shadows through the wall will secure that kill. However, he's in a pretty sticky situation as Adomne is coming down from the top. Jumping in, will be finishing off that one himself.
Yeah, I was going to say, nice Onslaught of Shadows over the wall. Just followed up and just clipped Lee Sin to be able to pick that one up. There's not been a lot of Dragon focus. I'm not sure why I'm expecting that overly too much from the teams right now, but you know, normally by now a team that a feeling is confident this Cloud9 would have looked to rotate towards that, so I'm a little bit surprised, but you can see Cloud9 EU have themselves quite a good lead so far. They take down another turret and take themselves to 4,000 gold is the lead.
Yep, which is again, it's been a game that was very close, but last time around, Cloud9. Wow, okay, nice one, Vince.
Cloud9. They're now
Cloud9.
an English teaching team.
They are exactly. They need that Rise skin though. The what's it called? The one where he looks like a professor.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember.
Do you know which one I'm on about though?
I do, but Forbidden is in a lot of trouble. But that's the slowest wall jump I think I've seen in a while.
I don't think you were saying coup, did you spot that one, mate? Because it wasn't quite as impressive as some of his previous games. Previous plays, I should say. Top lane and bot lane action is ensuing. As actually Voidal nearly picks up that kill on Katsui. Kyonan going deep here in a flame will not be landing. And in the meanwhile, Caitlyn actually goes down from Karma. I didn't catch that. Was that the inner flame that actually chunked her down? Now Rogu's going to fall as well. What the hell is going on in this game?
I didn't actually see it myself, I must admit. I was over the other side of the map, and you can see that Daniel's getting chased out by Ku in the jungle. This time Ku, as we said, playing mid this game on Nidalee, forces the ghost out. Nice flash to Juke.
Oh, here comes a slicing maelstrom though. Barrier has been popped from Ku, but it's not going to be enough. And I had a quick look there. The ignite was popped from Hyonan, so I assume it was an ignite that finished off Caitlyn at the top, at the bot lane even.
That would be fairly safe to assume. As another tower goes down in favor of Cloud9. Now both of those bottom lane towers have been secured, and Odo Amne hammering away with that the hammer form in that top lane. He does know that he can change to cannon and hypercharge, right? And I mean, let's take a look. He has got 5 points in hypercharge as well, so it is going to be dealing a lot of damage.
Well, he has been found out from a Daniel in the jungle right now of his opposition. Kennen coming around from the side, Onslaught Shadows will go through. Look at that damage though from the Bloodthirster. Will be enough to secure that kill, but now he's forced to run away. And the flashing from Paladin, he is hungry for this kill. However, follow-up damage from Odamne doesn't have a great deal of mana, but look at how much that hypercharge was doing. The aforementioned ability, and very nearly gets the kill on Paladin.
Oh, Ku's going to pick it up. He's got it. Got the kill. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Katsa, wow, he's getting taken down by Karma.
That sure is a support killing him.
Well, he does have a Morellonomicon.
That's true. A 4-0 as well.
Yeah. I think in this game, Hyanan's kind of like, I'm used to getting the kills, so give me all the kills.
Well, Ku is chasing after Daniel after the tower has just fallen. That will be a kill picked up from him. And interesting enough as well, Voidal's got 3 of his own kills. So we were talking before about how bot lane had switched around. How would that go for the mechanical play of Voidal? Well, the question is, he's absolutely excelling in this situation, as you'd expect though, because a lot of bot laners do know both roles. Roast has been caught from Ku. Will he go down? Yes, he will, but it'll probably be at the expense of Ku's life. There we go, he'll fall down as well for the shutdown goal.
However, there's a rotation over towards the mid lane, and if there's 2 people you don't want whacking away at that middle lane tower, it's Voidal and Odo Amne. There's both of them have a lot of tower pushing potential, and Odo Amne still staying around in hammer form. There we go. He changes for that movement speed boost.
Hyannan just 1v2'd the duo lane from BPI and nearly took down Caitlyn by herself. Meanwhile, though, you're going to have Febiven coming through the wall. He will be landing. That should be the end. Yes, it will. The Aqua Prison lands, but too little, too late.
Too little, too late indeed. This time Odo Amne's going to be there. There we go, hypercharge used. You can see it chunking through that turret. 130% damage for those 3 auto attacks.
Daniel, Riosta are going to be chasing him down. Does he have the damage though? He's doing so much, but there's the wild growth from Riosta. On the Onslaught of Shadows as well. That should be RIP to Odomni. Indeed it will be, but again, they're taking kills, but they're not getting objectives. And that's the important part right now. They're still well on the back foot. Voidal's actually soloing Dragon as I'm speaking.
Yeah, that attack speed debuff from Dragon, though, does so much work against the Kog'Maw that I don't know without that blue buff if he would have been able to take that Dragon.
I am thinking Voidal's on a lot of gold, because I haven't seen him go back for a while. Yeah, that's 3.8k he's got in his back pocket. So that's
okay.
a Blade of the Ruined King. And there's a few different ways you can build Kog'Maw. He could go for Phantom Dance afterwards and go for the attack speed with Bioarcane Barrage, or even build towards an Infinity Edge. I'm quite interested to see what he goes for.
I think he'll probably finish the Blade and get the Phantom Dancer. He should just have the gold on him, just over 3.8k. Oh, no, he's just going to buy an Infinity Edge straight out.
Okay, I was going to say Infinity Edge is very strong on Kog'Maw, but I thought Blade of the Ruined King would be first. Yarlan has been caught, however. Q does not land. Built up a Peacemaker, and that's not going to be enough damage from Katse. I am so surprised that Kyanan actually survived that one. Now Dominate's going to be chasing down Katse. We've already seen how much damage he can output in a short period of time, but however, he has overextended in this situation. A Daniel coming around from the side. In fact, Nami will be falling. Oh, Dominate now going after Katse. Picks that one up as well. What the hell is going on? And now could be looking for his triple kill, and he picks it up.
Cannon's coming as well. Can he get a Quadra? I don't think so. Not at this point.
I honestly thought Adomne was going to die, and then he gets a triple. Like, is Jace that broken right now, or is he just stupidly fed?
He's pretty fed. He was 6-3, now has a last whisper. Interestingly enough, he's not actually gone for the Tear of the Goddess, which I hadn't even noticed until now.
That's a very good point. When Bloodthirster first, I believe, like just finished that one really quickly, and then last whisper Ionian Boots of Lucidity, so really not bothering with Tear of the Goddess, as you say, and just going for that raw damage output.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. It's different to how we've seen Jace built in the past, and I have a feeling that might be a little bit why he's been sticking around a little bit more in Mercury Cannon without that additional mana. It's kind of staying in cannon form is... yeah, Mercury Hammer, sorry. Staying in cannon form gives you the extra damage, so, you know, it's not too bad.
Somehow Ku survives in that 1v3 situation, and actually pick up a tower off that one as well. And yeah, almost going for the AD carry build here, Adomne. He's not bothering with his melee until he gets up close and personal and really chunks down.
This is where the team composition is going to come into its own, though. Oh, look at the siege. Look at this ridiculous siege from Cloud9.
Pretty disgusting. That's 2 javelins I think landed, and also the shock blast from Jason. They're already backing away.
How do you deal? Oh,
what the?
How do you deal with this? how do you deal with 4 champions that are fed, that are sieging your turret at 20 minutes into the game?
You got to prepare that body. Shock blast comes in. Padden has got himself a kill on Kog'Maw. And that's the lack of mobility we were talking about before. Featherven is waiting for a ward jump, I believe. In fact, he rage kicks, Dragon Rages, I should say, Rogu through the wall, jumps on him with the Q, and here comes Jace from the side. We've already seen how much burst he can do. Kante gets completely decimated, looking for his triple kill. He will indeed secure the triple kill before falling himself. Now, Featherven is being chased down from a Daniel, and Q is just standing there saying, kill him.
Q wants to see the mechanics. That's what he's getting a, you know, a ringside seat.
Good guy Q wants his jungler dead, and that's actually really nice play from a Daniel, pushing it back onto the tower. Featherven is now rejoining the fight alongside Riosta, so this should be a kill on Featherven. Was caught from the side, courtesy of the Glitter Lance. My brain is just going to mush watching this game.
Q claims lag on that kill. I say his overconfidence was his weakness.
Nah, I would definitely agree with that statement. Featherven should be falling. Here we go. Get dunked.
So, apparently, if a team is sieging you at this point, you kind of just ignore the fact they're sieging you, get hit by all the siege, and then engage, and the team kind of just throw away their lead. Well, not their lead. They've still got 12,000 gold in the lead, so...
They throw away their opportunity to secure objectives, because they were definitely ripe for the taking there, I have to feel, and this could come back to bite them on the backside. They are a long way behind, though. Our BPI, so it'd have to be somewhat of a 50-minute game, as you said in the previous one, I believe, when Vayne got a couple kills.
Yeah, Kyanan is in a little bit of trouble. He does have a fair amount of damage himself, though, so they gotta be careful.
Well, that shield is also doing a lot. Oh my goodness, that damage from Adomne, who's now got a black cleaver as well. Just came in and 2-shot down a Daniel, who is actually building kind of tanky, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't really matter that much against this Jace, and Jace is one of these champions that he gets to this point and then kind of just smashes your face a little bit. Yeah, Shock Blast is now doing at 50% of health, and Katsu very, very nearly got hit by a spear there, but just managed to avoid it.
Well, question is, when are they going to finish this game? Because they really are flirting with BPI at this point. They're kind of teasing. Riosta's taking a bunch of damage from Kog'Maw. Has to pop that wild growth. Here comes a slicing maelstrom, and Kog'Maw gets obliterated. Zhonya's Hourglass also used their Q, is going to be falling down to the ace in the hole courtesy of Caitlyn, and now they turn their attention on Adomne, who has been really the big damage outsource right now for Cloud9 Eclipse. So then going back in again, Riosta takes a bunch of damage. Is Adana going to come and clean up? No, he can't. And therefore, he's just going to get the farm instead.
I've never known flirting to be quite as obvious as hitting somebody in the face with a hammer, but, you know, that's... I guess
so many
we
things
must,
I could say
we
right
must
now.
just have different styles, Vince, is all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, that is true. But it's more teasing, I guess. That they're saying, we can finish it, we can... No, we'll just back on away. And just keep it BPI. What's the expression? Treat 'em mean, keep 'em keen. I think that's pretty much Cloud9.
The thing about this game is there's a lot that I would love to take into a normal game. The discussion of the acceleration gate and how that utilizes well with Karma and a Talisman of Ascension, that kind of thing that you'd normally see in support. So that side of Jace's utility, as well as we've already seen the Slicing Maelstrom lock down Cogmore 2 team fights in a row, takes him out of the fight. There's stuff that I would love to see in a normal game, to see how effective things are, but unfortunately, this isn't a normal game.
Yeah,
that happened.
As Daniel tries to play statue, but Cogmore's he's not buying it, and he will be picking up that kill. Yeah, this isn't really an accurate depiction of how these compositions would generally work, and apparently there's some DCs going about. I'm not sure if that's legitimate or if it's trolling, but actually there's the pause.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like it actually might be a DC, which... Oh, no, it's already. Okay, fair enough. Cloud9 are going to get us back into this game.
Yeah, this game that's super serious, right? No sarcasm detected.
Nailed that spear.
It did all that. Nice flash as well from Q. Javelin through and not be connecting. And a part of me just wishes they'd push this because it's almost like it's not disrespectful or anything, but it's kind of painful how much they're able to crush down BPI.
I think the painful thing is I want to see this team composition in an actual game. Like I had so much hope for this team comp. Something new, something different.
Not quite paying off though. That is going to be first inhib and second inhib falling from Cloud9 Eclipse. They could finish it right here, right now, but something tells me they're not going to, especially as Daniel comes in. And it will be a double kill for him before he falls. Ace in the hole as well. Featherven will be falling in return, and now Cloud9 turn it back around. Their two main damage dealers though are still alive and kicking. That's going to be Voidland and Domne on Cogmore and Jace, and they pick up that second inhibitor.
Ooh, Kadza actually has a fair amount of damage himself, especially when paired with those Nexus turrets. And C9 are forced to run away from this one, but they did take 2 inhibitors and extend their lead now to well over 15,000. And will take down that blue buff. And they're going to get out of this one, and I don't think they'll stop for Dragon on the way past. Ah, okay. Sorry, Vince is actually disconnected slightly there, so I hadn't actually noticed. And disconnects in this game. This game is an interesting one. As I said, there's a lot that I would really like to break down for you guys. A lot. Cogmore, Jace, Kennen, really interesting stuff, but unfortunately, it's just not really meant to be on this one. But Cloud9 are significantly far ahead. In fact, 8 towers to 0 at this point. BPI have not exactly got going in this one. Even though some of their picks have been a little bit better, I feel like they had a slightly better ban phase in this game than they did previously. But Daniel gonna look maybe to try and get in on this Baron, but been forced out already by Ku, and that's going to be a very easy Baron because, again, another thing I'd love to talk about seriously is Cogmore has great Baron control. And you can see, well, great Baron damage with that single target with that Bite Arcane Barrage as well. But at this point, it's very difficult to not get Baron when you're nearly 18,000 gold in the lead.
I'm sorry, Stress. I have returned
It's
to you.
okay.
I'm not sure if you got my message or not.
I didn't until I had left a gap and then checked if you'd DC'd.
No, I am very much here, and I am very much back as well. And I was quite curious if when I returned the game would be over. That's not the case, although it could be very, very shortly. As you say, Baron is so strong with Cogmore, can just chunk through that Bioarcane Barrage, especially when he has items like this, and they're going to be finishing this game right now. Probably, I hope.
I feel like there's probably time for one round of an engage, followed by standing at the fountain taunting, but...
Well, Daniel goes in and gets insta-give pretty much. Feberven is not going to fall either, so that's going to be both Lulu, Hecarim, and Kennen down. In fact, Lulu's still alive. Riosta managing to survive there. Double kill from Jace on Caitlyn, and that's going to be all she
Hey, look,
wrote.
there's the standing at the fountain taunting bit.
You called it.
Got it.
Nailed it.
That's going to be a Nexus turret falling. And also a member of C9 falling.
Ooh, the poke though. And that is going to be GG for game number 2. And Cloud9 EU, or Eclipse as they're also known, are going to progress through to the quarterfinals here of the Riot Turkey International Invitational. A fairly one-sided game, I think it's safe to say there, Stress.
You could say that.
I think a lot of people are expecting Cloud9 Eclipse to go all the way in this tournament, get through to the finals, and I know, judging from the chat, that a lot of people are expecting them to win the whole thing as well.
Yeah, I think they're pretty convincing right now against a lot of teams. We've seen it last week, we've seen it again now this week, and we'll follow their progress through the tournament as we bring you more coverage this week. So expect to see some more of Cloud9.
Yep. Also, if you are interested as to what other teams are in this tournament, you got the likes of Dark Passage, Team to Quality, Tick, Trick, and Duck, Absolute Legends, ESC Gaming, and Departed as well, which is a team that we've casted recently. Stress. So there's plenty pretty big teams still in this tournament. So Cloud9 aren't going to have the easiest of times going through. In fact, they're against either ESC or HWA. HWA are also a Turkish team in the next stage, and both of those teams, I think, are actually fairly strong right now.
Yeah, we'll see how they can contend with their opposition, but I have a feeling, I think that's our only game for the day that is now in the books.
Yes, I believe this is all that's scheduled for today. So tomorrow, from what I can see on the brackets, we are scheduled to start 1900. I think that's Turkish time, so that's 5 o'clock GMT and 6 o'clock or 1800 CET. And then we have 2 best of 3s tomorrow, I think, Stress.
I believe we do. And of course, we'll be able to update you guys once all of the games have finished. We'll update on Twitter and all of that on what games we'll be bringing you tomorrow. So once the brackets have been filled out, we can figure out which games are going to be the best to show you guys.
Yep, so that's going to do it for us. Do we have reruns coming up, Hexit, or are we just going to go flying? We do have reruns, I've been told by our producers, so stick with us if you did miss any of the previous games. And until tomorrow, we will see you later on. Take care.